Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are watching us, and welcome to a grey and overcast Hungaroring. First race weekend of the AutoGP series for 2015, and yesterday, after a streaming wet race in vile conditions, today at least the slick tyres are on the cars for the first time in race trim. So the second race of the weekend features the top finishers in reverse order, and that means that Andres Mendes for Zelle Racing starts on pole position ahead of young Russian Nikita Zlobin. Luis da Silva, Johnny Cecotto on row 2, and on row 4 of the grid, 7th and 8th, Antonio Pizzonia and Facu Regalia, who won yesterday's first race in the final lap, as the tyres, the wet weather Kumos that had been very resilient for 35 minutes, finally started to really give up the last of their grip in the slightly drying conditions. The long race leader, the man who started from pole, Antonio Pizzonia, lost the lead in turn 5 of the final lap, and the man who put him under pressure all the way, Facu Regalia, ended up victorious. Cars on the grid and on the Kumo slicks this weekend. No mandatory pit stop in the races here in Hungary. There is Johnny Cecotto making a welcome return to the AutoGP series that he raced in before. And Cecotto, of course, recently spending last 2 or 3 seasons in GP2. So car that he's familiar with, power and grip levels that he's familiar with. New aero, look at the front of this Virtuosa UK car. It's got new dive tabs and new extra elements in the front and rear wings for much improved downforce, increased downforce on the cars, and still with the 550 horsepower Gibson technology V8 3.4 litre engine in the car. The car is a Lola chassis with the what was formerly a Zytek, now rebadged as Gibson technology engine. Luis da Silva there is the man who starts on second row of the grid for Zelle Racing. Zelle with 3 cars in near identical liveries. Still haven't quite got their head around making them look different for the fans, the drivers, or the poor TV commentators. However, there we go. There is a slight difference. The Angolan driver, Luis da Silva, with a little bit of blue on his front wings. And the man who's on pole, Andres Mendes, with a little bit of yellow. Well, there is Nikita Zlobin, son of Sergei Zlobin, who is here this weekend with his son. And Nikita, 19 years old, not the youngest driver on the grid. We've got a 16-year-old in the yellow and black car on the right of your screen, Leonardo Pulcini. But Nikita Zlobin coming in from a fairly limited junior single-seater career over the last 3 or 4 years. And Andres Mendes, the man on pole position for Zelle Racing. As you can see, the highlights, the yellow highlights on the mirrors for the Colombian driver, and the yellow highlights on the front wing as well. And he's the man who will lead the field away here to get the race underway in Hungary. Cars on the formation lap at the Hungaroring on a cool but dry afternoon, ready for race 2 of the AutoGP series, being led around by our poleman Andres Mendes. Top 8 from race 1 in reverse order. And that means that Antonio Pizzonia, who finished second, and Facu Regalia, who won, start in 7th and 8th position. In front of them in 6th place on the grid, young Swiss driver Christoph van Groningen. I just saw a little shot of him there in the black car with the white stripe down the centre. Really impressive performance from him. Antonio Pizzonia there started on pole, led all the way in the rain until finally his tyres cried enough on the very last lap. And he ran wide in turn 5. And that allowed the car that was then chasing him all the way, Facu Regalia, to get by and claim victory. Regalia out of the cockpit after an aborted start of his GP2 career last year, or his GP2 season last year, and out of the cockpit for a year, returning to racing here in Hungary, and just overwhelmed with victory yesterday. Well, there with the Dayglow yellow highlights, Andres Mendes, the pole sitter. Blue highlights on the Zelle Racing car of Luis da Silva, and Dayglow orange highlights there on Pizzonia's car. And behind him you see the white car of the Argentine. The Fisichella Motorsport driver, FMS, with 2 cars on the podium. Beg your pardon, with 1 car on the podium yesterday with Regalia. So, Mendes, Zlobin, Sasilva, and the blue car, Johnny Cecotto, in 4th place on the grid after a slightly disappointing race yesterday for the Virtuosi UK team. Reds rise, creeping from the pole man. There will be a penalty for Andres Mendes. Very slow start for Luis Silva. Very slow start from the front row from Nikita Zlobin. And Johnny Cecotto is going to lead this one. The blue wings of the Zelle Racing car getting boxed in behind. Antonio Pizzonia making a good start. Around the outside goes Johnny Cecotto, and up the inside, the yellow and black car. That is Leonardo Pulcini, the 16-year-old Italian. Impressive getaway from him, but he outbrakes himself down into turn 2, runs out wide. Cecotto's been jumped again. So Cecotto has lost almost all the ground he made up at the start. Through into 5th place has gone Van Groningen. And there is a Zelle Racing battle for the lead. Off again goes the pole sitter Andres Mendes, who is racking up the penalties immediately. Luis da Silva goes through to the lead. Through too goes Leonardo Pulcini. Through as well goes Johnny Cecotto in the inside. Mendes with too much muck on the tyres to hold them off. He had no grip coming back onto the track. He's down to 4th, ahead of the black car with the white stripe down the centre. That is Christoph Van Groningen. Action-packed first half of a lap already. Van Groningen looking to try and get by the pole sitter for 4th place. He needs to hurry up. He's got Nikita Zlobin behind him. And then behind him, Facu Regalia, who's got by Antonio Pizzonia. Smoking around the outside. The Zelle Racing driver trying to hold on. And Van Groningen used the outside line to good effect here in the rain yesterday. Around the outside also goes Facu Regalia, whose tail is up. He goes by Nikita Zlobin. No change for 4th, but it's now a 3-way battle. Down the straight comes our pole sitter, Andres Mendes, and they're 2 wide behind him. Van Groningen on the bumpy inside line and trying to go for the grip on the outside is Facu Regalia. He's not going to get a place there. I don't think he can go all the long way round. He's trying it though. Van Groningen still on the inside, and confirmation that car 9, who's holding up this bunch, has been served a drive-through for overwhelmingly jumping the start. He somehow could not control the car creeping, lost maybe control of the clutch in some way, but the youngster, I'm afraid, is going to go through the pits. So number 9, the 22-year-old Colombian Andres Mendes, that's him in 4th place. Pizzonia leads from Pulcini and Cecotto, so it was Pizzonia misidentified his car coming through the field as Silva, but Antonio Pizzonia from 7th on the grid made a great start, weaved through the traffic and got himself into the lead ahead of Leonardo Pulcini and Johnny Cecotto. 4th place battle then is Mendes with Facu Regalia, the white car, and then Van Groningen, the black car with the white stripe. Behind him, Zlobin, Sasilva, and Giuseppe Cipriani, who spun off on the first lap yesterday and did no wet running at all. Well, Antonio Pizzonia, in one of the 3 Zelle Racing entries, is out front, and his teammates in this queue. Mendes with Regalia down the inside for 4th place. Done deal. Mendes can't defend that, and even if he does, he's got to go through a drive-through anyway. All we can hope now is that he doesn't ruin the race of anybody around him. Well, Regalia gets through to 4th place, and I think that is now done. Antonio Pizzonia, 2 fastest laps to start the race. Johnny Cecotto in 3rd place. We're not seeing at the moment. He's just gone fastest in the first sector as he starts his chase of the leader. It's nearly 4 seconds covering the top 3, and then a gap back of 6 seconds to 4th place. This is now the battle for 5th position, because 4th has already changed. Regalia is in 4th. He's gone. So this is the battle for 5th place. And it is Mendes ahead of the sliding black and white car of Christoph Van Groningen. So Regalia got 2 places on the last lap, and having won race 1, desperately wants to catch the leaders. There is Antonio Pizzonia, and having lost race 1 on the final lap, Pizzonia will be very careful about keeping his Kumo tyres alive. There is no pit stop in this race to change the rears, so you've got to make them last. Pizzonia, experienced in these cars, but has not had to do a race where he's used the same set of tyres all the way through. Previous seasons of AutoGP, there have been mandatory pit stops, and those may well return to the series later in the year, but for here in Hungary, they are not. Through for his drive-through comes our pole sitter, Andres Mendes. Just to reiterate, the grid for race 2 set by reversing the top 8 from race 1, so it wasn't a qualifying run pole for Mendes. He was just in 8th place at the end of yesterday's wet encounter. Antonio Pizzonia, 2.3 seconds clear of Leonardo Pulcini in 2nd place. Johnny Cecotto in 3rd, 1.5 seconds behind him. Facu Regalia, 6.2 seconds further back in 4th place. So he's got a race-long battle to try and catch Cecotto. There's the 2nd place car, Leonardo Pulcini. Pulcini just 16 years of age. And the Italian comes up from junior single-seaters. Last year raced in the Euro Formula Open. The year before he was 4th in the first ever season of Formula 4 in Italy. And before that in karts. So 2 seasons of car racing, and he's in a 550 horsepower V8 Lola, and produced a really good race yesterday. Pizzonia fastest again on this last lap, but Pulcini setting the fastest final sector of all. So Pulcini has upped the ante as well. All the cars getting quicker, almost everybody setting a faster lap last time round. As you can see, Facu Regalia in 4th place, 10 seconds adrift, having got stuck in traffic in the opening couple of laps, while Pizzonia romped away clear. Fastest lap at the moment, a 1 minute 35.3. And fastest race lap yesterday was a... trying to find it now. No, haven't been given that information. It was just under the 2-minute mark. So we're about half a minute. Very quick getaway on the right of your screen. Antonio Pizzonia gets hooked up as everybody else is balked. Looks immediately to the inside. And down into the first corner. He wasn't the leader, he was in 4th place. Mistakenly thought that that was the second of the Zelle racing cars of Luis da Silva. And as everybody outbraked themselves, look again at Pizzonia, the second of those black, orange and white cars, into 2nd place. And then the leader goes off the pole sitter and through went Pizzonia at the scene, incidentally, turn 5, where he lost the lead of the race on the final lap of race 1. Look at his right rear. Yeah, looks okay. Looked a little bit of graining maybe as he came into the corner there, but that's a long sustained pressure on that outside tyre in corner 1. Means the right rear, the inside tyre, gets very little use, and the colour changes on the surface of the tread. Well, Pizzonia still flying, but Pulcini and Cecotto behind both set fastest sector times on this last lap as well. Not personal fastest, but race fastest. Cecotto does it again, sector 1. He's quicker again, 0.3 quicker in sector 1 than Pizzonia, the leader. Half a second quicker in sector 1 than Pulcini in 2nd place. Cecotto is on the hurry-up. He thinks he should be leading this championship and winning races, and he's right, he should be. He's got the experience. He needs to be doing that. There's Christoph van Groningen, Nikita Zlobin behind in the colours of SMP Racing. Car run by Virtuosi UK. Zlobin, another driver out of 2-litre Formula Renault. Cecotto fastest again in the 2nd sector. He's taken another 10th out of the lead pair. So the battle for 2nd and 3rd is hotting up. Van Groningen holds off Slobin. Slobin 4/10 quicker than Van Groningen in the second sector, but Van Groningen 3/10 quicker than Slobin in the first. Now Slobin getting into position where he's going to get the toe down the straight, but also he's going to wash out a little in the final corner because he's in turbulent air and those wings won't work so well. And Van Groningen as flamboyant in the dry with the oversteer as he is in the wet, or as he was yesterday in the wet. I think he's still wrestling the car around a little, the Swiss driver, and again into the braking area, very deep. He'll power slide it off the corner. It looks flamboyant, it looks fun, but it's not going to be good for the tyres in the long run. Pitsonia, Pulcini, Cecotto, the top three. Regalia is gone, and look at the black stripes Van Groningen is leaving on the road. That is not sustainable. Battle under braking down into the final corner, into the first corner from Luis Silva. Just squeezing his way by Christoph Van Groningen. And Van Groningen burning up his rear tyres. Very flamboyant, the young Swiss who finished on the podium yesterday. He got away with all the sliding off the corners that he's been doing in the wet, but in the dry, he's leaving loads of rubber on the road and just wrestling the car around, and it is becoming more and more of a struggle now for this young Swiss in the number 6 machine. Van Groningen has lost 2 places in the last 2 laps and has now been caught by Giuseppe Cipriani. There's your race leader, Antonio Pitsonia. Gap now 2.0 seconds over Leonardo Pulcini in the black and yellow car. You just saw a flash of the young Italian. Pulcini, 16 years old. I can't emphasize enough what a good job he is doing. First time out in these cars, Pulcini with only 2 years of very minor single-seater racing experience behind him. And by minor, I mean small engine, low power, minimal aero. Behind him, Johnny Cecotto, who's not only raced in this championship before, he's done GP3, GP2. And Pulcini is trading fastest laps with Johnny Cecotto and Antonio Pitsonia. Now he is in very good company as far as speed goes, and for a 16-year-old, I thought in yesterday's wet race, Pulcini in that yellow and black Fisichella Motorsport car showed commendable maturity. Certainly more than I could summon up when I was 16 years of age. And at the moment, under pressure from Cecotto. Cecotto, a race winner at GP2 level as well as in AutoGP. So he's nobody's mug. Antonio Pitsonia, former Formula 1 driver. He's raced in Indy cars, GP2, Formula 3000. Oh, and Cecotto drops a tyre onto the damp grass, loops the car around, but keeps the engine alive. Just pushing a fraction too hard. And again, you might expect the 16-year-old to make the mistake. It's Cecotto here, though. Wow. Gets away with that into the fast left at turn 8. And that concrete runoff area saved his bacon. He'll now have to get his head down and charge again. There's your race leader, Antonio Pitsonia. Leonardo Pulcini in second place. Gap went down from 2.0 to 1.8 last lap. Don't forget, this time round, though, Pulcini was under pressure from Cecotto. So sure enough, the gap goes out by a second. It's now out to 2.78 seconds. That's a little bit of extra breathing space for Antonio Pitsonia. And with 10 laps remaining, he might need that come the end of the race, because these tyres have not been run an entire race distance without a stop. Well, there you can see Christoph Van Groningen. Giuseppe Cipriani has gone by him. So Van Groningen down to 8th spot now, and in real tyre trouble already, I'm sure. Again, the 23-year-old Swiss, very new to racing cars with this kind of power, weight, speed and aerodynamics. And as a result, he is still driving them like a 2-litre Formula Renault car. And this is Cipriani down the inside, putting the youngster under pressure. Giuseppe Cipriani turns 50, I beg his pardon, in June. So the oldest versus one of the younger competitors in the field. Antonio Pizzonia, perhaps in terms of racing, the most experienced top-level racing driver in the field by quite some margin. Formula One and IndyCar on his CV over the years. And plenty of other big single-seater racing experience. So he leads from 16-year-old Leonardo Pulcini. Third place is Johnny Cicotto, the 25-year-old Venezuelan. And here's the battle behind. Fourth place, Facu Regalia, has been caught by Nikita Zlobin, and Zlobin is now looking to make a move on the race one winner. Regalia looking in the mirrors. Young Russian had a really good couple of dices in the opening few laps, and looking to put the pressure on the Argentine in front of him. And again, Zlobin, very inexperienced at this level, just 19 years of age. But really putting the pressure on, racing nice and clean, avoiding any unnecessary contact. Looking for the move up to turn 4 on the outside. That's going to be bold. He goes around. That's a really good move. Drives around Facu Regalia. Now, after a dry free practice and qualifying and a wet race yesterday, this is venturing into the unknown for guys like Regalia, who haven't got experience of these cars in the dry. But then so it is too for Zlobin, who's now up to 4th. Battle for 5th position. Facu Regalia in the white car ahead of Angola's Luis Sasilva. And Sasilva, who started in 3rd place on the grid, got shuffled down the order early on after a very slow getaway. It's now starting to make things work for him. Regalia looked, when he got into 4th place, as though he was going to chase down the top 3. And maybe he has asked too much of his tyres already. Certainly he's in trouble. He struggled, and Nikita Zlobin got by him in 1 lap. You've got to say, it looks like Sasilva may well do as well. Sasilva didn't help himself there by running out very wide. But Sasilva in the last 2 or 3 laps picked up a couple of places. He's come by Christoph van Groningen, who's now dropped to the back of the field. It looks as though Sasilva may well get by Facu Regalia, and maybe even as soon as this lap. Lock up from the Angolan driver. Here we go, out of 2 and 3, up to turn 4, and he clearly will have seen that Regalia was passed around the outside. Well, there's no mandatory pit stop, but it doesn't mean you can't do a pit stop, and that's what Christoph van Groningen has had to do. A real learning weekend for him in these big cars, and he did need new rear rubber. He just basically left it all on the track far too early. Sliding the car off the corners, radials don't like that. And just wheel spin, leaving big black marks as he came off the turns. It was clear that he was running out of rubber very much faster than everybody else. Well, Regalia in trouble under braking, and that means he is in tyre trouble too, I think, rather than brake problems. And through goes Sasilva, and he drifts out wide. And if he doesn't come into the pits now, I think he's only fooling himself, Facu Regalia. But are FMS ready for him, or are they going to have to get themselves set for a tyre change? Regalia dropping like a stone there. So Sasilva up to 5th. Cipriani goes by for 6th. Regalia trying to counter up into turn 13. Just wasn't happening for him. He just ran out of grip. So we've already seen 2 quick cars from race 1 running out of tyres. Christoph van Groningen and Facu Regalia, they were 3rd and 1st respectively. And they're both now at the tail of the race 2 field because they have run out of rubber. And that is either a combination of inexperienced driver not getting the right setup for his driving style, or just not managing the tyre as well as perhaps they could do. Well, for Hungaroring, you can certainly understand. Tyre wear issues not really a major drama in 2-litre Formula Renault. Regalia, again, had a cockpit for a year, but and this Kumo tyre, I'm sure, is very different from other things that he's driven on more recently, the Pirellis in GP2. Plus, of course, like Pitsonia here, like Cecotto, when they've raced in this championship before, there have been pit stops. And so it's a very different mind game to make the rears last 20 laps instead of 10, 11, 12, whatever. Or maybe as few as 8. You tend to go for a slightly earlier pit stop because when the car is heavy with fuel, it wears the tyre harder. Pitsonia leads, though, for 5 seconds now, the margin over Pulcini. Cecotto 4.6 back. Since that abortive lunge on Pulcini in the spin, Cecotto has not been able to close the gap. Again, you can see on the surface of the tyre, very marked different colours. Now, we also hear from trackside that, yes, you can see it on the camera, that there are drops of rain. Again, I would not swap my job with our camera guys. They either get sunburned or soaked. And there are a few little spots of rain. And with 5 laps to go, should it rain, having been started as a dry race, we will very likely see a red flag, but that would require a major deluge. At the moment, a little spit or spot wouldn't be a problem. Declan Lowen on the right there, the boss of the Virtuosi UK team. His top man, Johnny Cecotto, in 3rd. Nikita Zlobin, the youngster, in 4th place. But at the moment, for Zelle Racing, Antonio Pitsonia, as he did in race 1, leading all the way from the first corner. Well, not quite the first corner, but leading every lap so far. 5 to go. And as he sees spots of water on his visor, not the pitboard man, Antonio Pitsonia, he too will be hoping that the rain holds off and the laps are completed without major drama. What normally happens when it rains is the leader is the first to get to the wall of water and he's the one who goes off. Everybody else is then forewarned, because the leader has just gone off, that the grip level has changed substantially. So Pitsonia is in the least enviable position should it suddenly hurl it down. It's not that dark overhead, but it's certainly not that light. You can see from the camera lens there, look, 2 little droplets. That's not enough to reduce the grip level anymore on the track. The track surface is warm, the tyres are hot, and a few little drops of water won't be a major issue. Antonio Pitsonia now lapping in a 1 minute 38 and a halves. Pulcini and Cecotto behind 1:39s. Fastest race lap was Pitsonia, 1:34.9 earlier on, when the tyres were still giving of their best. As you can see, the big, broad stripes on them, where the grip levels. Oh, look at the understeer there as he tries to chase the throttle through the corner. Nikita Zlobin, with Luis da Silva still right behind him. And Zlobin looking left, looking right. Few more drops of water on the camera lens here at the 12, 13, 14 intersection. Zlobin holds the inside line. Da Silva tries to go round the outside, but you're going to run out of road on the exit if you do. Zlobin on the straight. Da Silva, though, in the slipstream, so Zlobin goes right, making Da Silva work the long way round. Then, of course, Zlobin will try and move out a little. He goes in shallower. Da Silva, does he outbrake himself? Zlobin can't get the power down. He turned in too tight on the exit. Didn't have enough room, or didn't make enough room for himself. So change as Luis da Silva moves up to 4th, ahead of Nikita Zlobin. Virtuosi UK driver down to 5th, and the Zelle Racing driver up to 4th. Few more spots of water. Nobody wants this to end in a rain shower. There is Nikita Zlobin in 5th place. Luis da Silva just in front with the blue highlights on the black, orange and white Zelle Racing colour scheme. Oh, and off has gone the car of Christoph van Groningen. Fresh rear tyres, but obviously doesn't have enough front tyre grip either. Again, you can see the darker patch on that where the tyre is really struggling. Maybe it was just a few extra drops of water, or maybe he really has mullered the front tyres as much as the rears. Here's the leader. Oh, he too has a lock-up. It is a little bit tippy-toey there down in the first corner. Leonardo Pulcini in second, Johnny Cecotto in third, yet to get there. And because of the way that the straight dips down into the first corner, they may not have noted that Pitsonia struggled to get the car turned in, and Pitsonia struggling here as well. More spits and spots. Not enough to throw you off the island, but just enough to take that tiny bit of grip away. And there is Sir Silver. Now, does that mean that Nikita Zlobin got by? Yes, it does. No, it doesn't. Zlobin went off as well, and Cipriani has picked up his place. So Sir Silver in the foreground, big lock-up. Cipriani is alert to that and gets on the brakes a fraction earlier, survives, but Zlobin didn't spot the danger and also dropped back down a bit. Lap 18 of 20, 2 to go after this. What's going to come first, the checkered flag or more rain? See the three men who are allowed to work on the car during a pit stop, all with their fire suits, helmets and protective goggles on. All mandatory, and big penalties should you make a pit stop without that happening. Here is Christoph van Groningen, and he's going by the man who started on pole, Andres Mendes. Mendes with the yellow highlights on the number 9 car. So van Groningen finally gets 8th place back after his pit stop and his off-track excursion. His pit stop longer than Mendes' drive-through that he served for woefully jumping the start. Official notification of the wet track. In other news, it gets lighter during the day and marginally darker in the evening. Antonio Pitsonia, after losing the race on the final lap yesterday, will be very twitchy now. This is lap 19 of 20. Leonardo Pulcini in second place, Johnny Cecotto here in third place. Still close enough that if Pitsonia has a big one, they could pick it off. The gap though, first to second, is nearly 10 seconds, so Pitsonia can do the last lap at 8/10 and still be clear, and he might need to. Especially the rear tyres on these cars. They have not had experience of running them all the way through a race up until today. Not a dry one, that's for sure. Pitsonia using all of his nous to keep the tyres alive, same as he was trying to do in the rain yesterday. Don't think his setup worked best. Facu Regalia had little tyre left at the end, he said, but I could tell as I was catching Antonio again in the final few laps, I could tell he had much less grip than I did. And in the end, eventually, it was one lap too much for Pitsonia's tyres. Today, 5 laps less, but in dry conditions. And here we go, crunch time. The red and yellow stripe flag means slippery surface. Pitsonia's aware of that. He skated down into the first corner last lap. This time he's even more cautious. He's got a 10-second margin for error. Nervy times after yesterday on the pit wall. I think Pitsonia will be feeling a lot more confident though. I think he put yesterday down to, yeah, okay, experience, whatever. 9 seconds in front of Pulcini, starting the last lap. Antonio Pitsonia, after an electrifying start, has dominated this race. Johnny Cecotto in third place, a further 10 seconds behind Pulcini. So we'll have not three completely different podium finishers. In 6 podium finishers, only Pitsonia will have been on both podiums. So after today, second yesterday, and half a lap away from victory today. That would make him the championship leader. He's got through corner 5. That was his nemesis yesterday. Down to the slower speed on the circuit through the chicane, and then back up on this long run back towards the end of the lap. That has got to be a very welcome sight. The final 3 corners. Into the last turn, Antonio Pizzonia. He will cross the line and see the checkered flag. Victory in race 2 here in Hungary, as perhaps he should have had in race 1. And that moves him into the championship lead after the season opener. But behind him, what a race, Leonardo Pulcini, the 16-year-old Italian, in second place. And he not only kept Pizzonia honest for half the race, but held off Johnny Cecotto as well. What a result indeed. Pizzonia, Pulcini, Cecotto, your podium. And Luis Sasilva will end up, it seems, in 4th place. He crosses the line below my commentary position. Nikita Zlobin in 5th. Giuseppe Cipriani passed in the final lap by Facu Regalia. So Regalia got by Cipriani again. And then 8th place, some way back, will go to yesterday's 3rd place finisher, Christoph van Groningen. But it is victorious Antonio Pizzonia. He enjoyed his cruise back in. Antonio Pizzonia, the Brazilian, victorious here in our 2nd AutoGP race of the weekend. And he moves into the championship lead. 46 points will leave him 12 clear of his closest rival, Facu Regalia. Let's hear from him. He's with Alex.
Well, the rain just managed to hold off in time. That last lap, Antonio, you must have had your heart in your mouth. Well done. Congratulations, winner of race 2 of AutoGP.
I'm really pleased for the team, you know, especially after the mistake I did yesterday in the race. We lost the win yesterday by a couple of corners, but I'm really happy for them. And in the end was getting hard. The rain was getting harder, and I had to concentrate as much as I could and keep the count of black stuff. So.
At what point during that last lap did you start celebrating, or were you like yesterday, like no, not quite yet?
I didn't celebrate until the checkered flag. Yesterday I got a little bit too relaxed and made a mistake, so today I had to focus as much as I could and bring the car home. So yeah, I'm really pleased. So good win for the team.
And a fantastic start to the season. Well done.
Your new championship leader is Antonio Pizzonia, and there's the maturity that his age and experience give him. He honestly stands up and says, no, I nodded off in the final few laps in race 1 and gave it away, and had to really make sure I didn't do it again here. But Leonardo Pulcini, 16 years old, in 2nd place. Johnny Cecotto in 3rd spot. And that changes the championship around. After yesterday, it was Facu Regalia, the points leader, from Antonio Pizzonia and Christoph van Groningen. Pizzonia is now our points leader, 46 points. On 34 in 2nd place is Regalia, and on 32 in 3rd place is Leonardo Pulcini, the youngster with just 2 years racing experience under his belt. That could all, probably will all change next time out at the end of May at Silverstone. Whether they'll have dry or wet conditions rather remains to be seen. But in the wet and in the dry, entertainment in spades here from AutoGP in Hungary. So out onto the podium in 3rd place goes Venezuela's Johnny Cecotto. Father, of course, a former top flight bike racer, Grand Prix racer in Formula 1, and then legendary touring car racer as well. Second place, the youngster on the left, is Leonardo Pulcini, and your race winner, Antonio Pizzonia. Well, it's a tie somewhere between the Italian national anthem and the Brazilian national anthem, as which is actually the national anthem of motorsport, really, isn't it? Antonio Pizzonia, race winner. Johnny Cecotto there in third place. Spin, chasing the young Italian on the left of your screen. Cost him an opportunity to challenge for that runner-up spot, but this kid, Leonardo Pulcini, 16 years old. As I said yesterday, when he was born, Ayrton Senna had been dead for 5 years. That's how young he is. And what was Pizzonia doing in 98? Well, in 2000, he was doing Formula 3 in Great Britain. So Pizzonia had already started his karting career. It was probably at the height of his karting career in Brazil, where somewhere in Italy, Mrs. Pulcini was giving birth to the guy who's just finished behind him. Isn't age a wonderful thing? And he's slow off the draw with the champagne as well. Antonio Pizzonia gets a soaking. He won't care. He won't mind either that it's starting to drizzle here at the Hungaroring, because he is our race winner and our new points leader as they go away from Hungary. 3 weeks till races 3 and 4 of the season at Silverstone. They go on then to Paul Ricard, to Zandvoort, to Brno, which will be another great track for these cars, and one final race still to be decided. Pizzonia will head to a track he knows well, Silverstone. Raced in British Formula 3, among other things. There's raced a lot of times for British teams. He will go with the points lead. The young man on the left could be very entertaining to watch him mature in these cars through the season. That's it, though, from Hungary for AutoGP.